The arrival. The battle over Proxima Centauri IV was going badly for the Allied systems. Their fleet, once proud and numerous, had been reduced to a ragtag collection of damaged ships, desperately trying to hold the line against the overwhelming might of the Vespian Concordat. Admiral Catal, his blue-scaled skin dulled with exhaustion, watched the tactical display with growing despair. "Status report," he demanded, knowing the answer would bring no comfort. "Shield strength at 22% across the fleet," reported his second-in-command, Commander Larissa. "The Vespians have brought in another dreadnought. They're positioning for a final push." Catal nodded grimly. For 8 standard years, the Allied systems, a coalition of 7 spacefaring species, had fought against Vespian expansion. For 8 years, they had slowly lost ground, watching as world after world fell to the insectoid conquerors. Now it seemed their resistance would end here, at Proxima Centauri, the last major defensive line before the core worlds. "Order all remaining ships to form a defensive perimeter around the evacuation transports," Catal said, his voice steady despite the circumstances. "We hold as long as we can." Across the battlefield, the Vespian vessels moved with mechanical precision. Their ships, organic-looking constructs of chitin and metal, arranged themselves into attack formations. The largest, a massive dreadnought designated by Allied intelligence as Hive Queen, pulsed with ominous energy as it prepared its main weapon systems. "Sir," Larissa's voice cut through the tension, "we're detecting an anomaly at the edge of the system." Tal turned. "Vespian reinforcements." "No, sir. The energy signature doesn't match anything in our database. It's... Wait." She paused, mandibles clicking in confusion. "Something's emerging from hyperspace." The tactical display flickered, showing a new contact materializing at the periphery of the battle. It was a single ship, dark and sleek, shaped unlike anything Catal had ever seen, neither the crystalline elegance of Allied vessels nor the organic curves of Vespian craft. This ship was angular, predatory, built with a purpose that was unmistakable even at first glance. "What species?" Catal demanded. "Unknown, sir. We're receiving no identification signals." The mysterious vessel hung in space for a moment, seemingly assessing the battle before it. Then, without warning, it accelerated toward the conflict, moving at speeds that made Catal's inner eyelids flutter in surprise. "They're heading straight for the Vespian line," Larissa reported, incredulity evident in her voice. The Vespians, noticing the newcomer, diverted a squadron of cruisers to intercept. What happened next would be recorded in Allied historical archives as the Proxima Revelation. The unknown ship unleashed a barrage of weapons unlike anything the Allied forces had witnessed. Not the plasma torrents of Vespian weaponry or the energy lances of Allied technology, but projectiles, physical, kinetic weapons that struck with devastating force. 3 Vespian cruisers shattered almost instantly, their shields proving utterly ineffective against the onslaught. "What in the name of the 7 moons?" Catal breathed. The tactical display showed the unknown ship pivoting with impossible agility, bringing more weapons to bear. Rail guns, missile systems, and what appeared to be some form of directed energy weapon tore through the Vespian formation. "Sir," Larissa's voice had risen an octave, "we're receiving a transmission from the unknown vessel." "Put it through." The communications display flickered to life, and Catal found himself staring at a species he had never encountered. The being had pinkish-brown skin, no scales or exoskeleton, and a covering of dark material that must have been some form of uniform. The alien's face was oddly expressive, with a set of piercing eyes that held Catal's gaze with unsettling intensity. "This is Captain Mira Chen of the United Nations ship Defiance," the being spoke, its translator converting the alien language into standard galactic common. "We detected your distress signal. Looks like you could use some assistance." Catal's throat sac expanded in surprise. You're engaging the Vespian Concordat. Do you understand what you're doing?" A strange expression crossed the alien's face. What K-Tal would later learn was a smile. "Oh, we understand perfectly," Captain Chen replied. "We've been monitoring this conflict for some time. We just decided it was finally time to introduce ourselves." Across the battlefield, the Vespian forces were regrouping. The dreadnought Hive Queen had altered course, now bearing down on the UNS Defiance with obvious intent. "Captain Chen," K-Tal warned, "that's their flagship. Its graviton cannon can tear through any shielding we've ever developed." Chen nodded, that strange smile never leaving her face. "Let them try. Admiral, I suggest you pull your forces back and protect those evacuation ships. We'll handle the Vespians." Before K-Tal could protest, the transmission cut off. On the tactical display, he watched as the Defiance altered course, accelerating directly toward the Vespian dreadnought in what seemed like a suicidal charge. "Sir," Larissa questioned, "orders?" K-Tal hesitated only briefly. "Do as they suggest. Pull our forces back to protect the transports." The Allied fleet reluctantly disengaged, pulling back as the lone ship, this Defiance, met the Vespian armada head-on. The Hive Queen's graviton cannon powered up, its distinctive energy signature building to maximum output. The weapon fired, a distortion in space itself lancing out toward the human vessel. Everyone on the Allied command bridge expected annihilation. Instead, they witnessed impossibility. The Defiance somehow shifted, the graviton beam passing through the space it had occupied milliseconds before. The human ship's movement defied conventional propulsion, seeming to flicker between positions rather than travel through the intervening space. "How did they?" Larissa began, but her question died as the Defiance responded with its own attack. From the ship's flanks, dozens of smaller craft suddenly deployed. Fighters, K-Tal realized, but unlike any he had seen. They moved with the same impossible agility as their mothership, swarming the Vespian vessels with coordinated precision. "Are those pilots?" an officer asked in disbelief. "Yes," K-Tal replied, watching the tactical display with growing amazement. "Not automated drones. Those are piloted craft." The concept seemed archaic, risking living beings in small craft, rather than using the network drone swarms both the Allied systems and Vespians had adopted centuries ago. Yet the effectiveness of these human fighters was undeniable. They slipped through Vespian defenses with ease, delivering pinpoint strikes against critical systems. Meanwhile, the Defiance itself engaged the Hive Queen directly. The human vessel unleashed a barrage from what K-Tal's sensors identified as railguns, primitive in concept, yet executed with a technological sophistication that allowed solid projectiles to reach velocities approaching significant fractions of light speed. The Vespian flagship's shields, designed to disperse energy weapons, provided almost no protection. The kinetic impacts tore through the dreadnought's outer hull, exposing its interior decks to vacuum. "Fascinating," K-Tal murmured. "They've developed along a completely different technological path." The Vespian forces, confronted with tactics and technology they had never encountered, began to falter. Their formations, previously so precise, dissolved into chaos as they struggled to adapt to the human assault. "Sir," Larissa reported, mandibles clicking in excitement, "the Vespians are withdrawing. Their dreadnought is severely damaged and losing power." Indeed, the Hive Queen was listing badly, venting atmosphere and debris as it slowly retreated. The smaller Vespian vessels formed a protective screen around their flagship, abandoning their attack on the Allied fleet. "The human vessel is hailing us again," Larissa announced. Captain Chen's face appeared once more on the communication display. This time, K-Tal noticed subtle details, the slight sheen of moisture on her skin, the rise and fall of her chest indicating some form of respiratory system. "Admiral," Chen greeted him, "I believe we've bought you some time. The Vespians are retreating to regroup, but they'll be back with reinforcements." "You have my deepest gratitude, Captain," K-Tal replied, his voice thick with emotion. But I must ask, who are you? Where do you come from? In all our records, there's no mention of your species. Chen's expression shifted, becoming more serious. We're humans, from Earth. We've kept to ourselves for a long time, Admiral. Our history gave us good reasons to be cautious about galactic politics. Yet you intervened on our behalf. Let's just say we have a special dislike for conquering empires, Chen replied. We've been watching the Vespians for some time. We don't approve of their methods. Kital's throat sac pulsed with a mixture of relief and apprehension. Captain Chen, I formally invite you to dock with our command carrier. I believe we have much to discuss. Chen nodded. Indeed we do. Admiral, indeed we do. As the UNS Defiance approached the Allied flagship, word spread rapidly through the fleet. A new species had entered the war. Beings called humans with technology that had done the impossible, halted the Vespian advance. For the first time in 8 long years, a new emotion spread through the Allied forces. The reckoning. Captain Mira Chen stood before the Allied Systems War Council, painfully aware of the alien scrutiny. 7 different species, each with their own biological quirks and cultural nuances, studied her with expressions ranging from curiosity to suspicion. Admiral Kital, now familiar to her, sat at the center of the half-circle of representatives. Captain Chen, Kital began formally, you've requested this audience to propose a strategic alliance. Before we proceed, the Council has questions about your species and your unexpected appearance in our conflict. Chen nodded, straightening her uniform. Of course, I'll be as transparent as possible, though some information remains classified by my government. A Moravian counselor, his crystalline body refracting light in shimmering patterns, leaned forward. Let us begin with the obvious question. Where have humans been during the last 3 centuries of galactic history? Hiding. Chen answered simply, drawing surprised murmurs. Earth is located in what your star charts label as the dead zone, a region believed to be uninhabitable due to ancient supernova. The radiation barriers, Kital realized. You've been behind them all this time. Chen nodded. We adapted to survive in those conditions. The radiation shielding we developed became the foundation for many of our defensive technologies. But why reveal yourselves now? Asked a Xerillian representative, her feathered crest rising with suspicion. Chen's expression hardened. 200 years ago, humanity nearly destroyed itself in a global war. When we finally reached the stars, we discovered the devastation we had narrowly avoided was common throughout the galaxy. Species after species, civilization after civilization, all fallen to conquest or self-destruction. She paused. We decided to learn from history rather than repeat it. We built our defenses, developed our technology, and watched. Watched and did nothing, accused the Xerillian. Until now, Chen countered calmly. The Vespian Concordat crossed a line when they began systematic extermination of conquered populations. We've seen that pattern before in our own history. We won't stand by and let it happen again. A silence fell over the council chamber as the implications settled. Finally, Admiral Kital spoke again. The Defiance's capabilities are remarkable. Is it representative of human military technology? Chen allowed herself a small smile. The Defiance is our newest Explorer-class vessel, designed for first contact scenarios. It's well armed, but by no means our most powerful warship. The council members exchanged glances of both hope and concern. We've analyzed your engagement with the Vespian dreadnought, Kital continued. Your weapon systems seem to bypass shields entirely. Different technological evolution, Chen explained. While most galactic civilizations focused on energy weapons and corresponding defenses, Earth's isolation pushed us toward kinetic weapons and quantum displacement drives. Our railguns fire projectiles at relativistic speeds. No conventional shield can stop them. And your fighters? Asked a Tellarate counselor. We abandoned piloted craft centuries ago. Humans have a unique neurological flexibility that gives us advantages in combat situations, Chen replied. Our AI is advanced, but human pilots can still outperform automated systems in unpredictable scenarios. The strategic discussions continued for hours. Chen outlined the capabilities humanity could bring to the conflict, not just the Defiance, but a fleet of warships waiting at the edge of human space. In return, she requested only alliance, not subjugation or territory. As the council session ended, a priority alert sounded throughout the station. Tal activated the central display, revealing a massive Vespian fleet converging on their position. They've committed their reserve forces, he announced grimly. 20 dreadnoughts, hundreds of support vessels. They'll be here within 16 hours. They're desperate to eliminate us before we can consolidate, Chen observed. Admiral, I need immediate clearance to bring in reinforcements from the human fleet. Tal looked to the council, who nodded in unison. Granted, Captain. Call your ships. 16 hours later, the largest Vespian armada ever assembled emerged from hyperspace at Proxima Centauri. Their formation was impeccable, their numbers overwhelming. A demonstration of force meant to crush the Allied resistance once and for all. They found not just the battered Allied fleet awaiting them, but 27 human warships arranged in formation alongside their new allies. Each human vessel bore the distinctive angular design of the Defiance, though many were significantly larger. At the center of the human formation floated a massive vessel that dwarfed even the Vespian dreadnoughts. Its hull bore the name UNS Humanity's Resolve. On its bridge, Captain Chen stood beside Fleet Admiral Helena Ochoa, watching as the Vespian forces adjusted their formation to address this unexpected development. They're adapting already, Chen noted, pointing to the tactical display. Their lead vessels have modified their shield configurations. Admiral Ochoa nodded. As expected, the Vespians are nothing if not quick learners. She turned to her communications officer. Open a channel to the Allied flagship. Admiral Ketal's image appeared on screen. The Vespians are deploying in attack formation. They've committed everything they have. So have we, Ochoa replied. Are your forces prepared for the coordination strategy we discussed? Ketal's throat sac pulsed in affirmation. We are ready, Admiral. Then let's begin. The human fleet split into 3 battle groups, each moving to support different sections of the Allied formation. The Vespians, seeing this division, pressed their numerical advantage, concentrating fire on what they perceived as weak points in the defensive line. It was exactly what the human commanders had anticipated. As the Vespian forces committed to their attack vectors, the human vessels executed a maneuver that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Using their quantum displacement drives, they blinked from their positions, reappearing instantly behind the Vespian flanks. All ships, execute Fire Plan Epsilon, Ochoa commanded. The human fleet unleashed its arsenal. Railguns fired in synchronous patterns, creating overlapping fields of hypervelocity projectiles. Missile barrages deployed not explosives but specialized nanite clusters that attached to Vespian hulls, disrupting their biological components. Most devastating of all were the RASER systems, relativistic amplification by stimulated emission of radiation, weapons that combined the precision of lasers with the kinetic impact of railguns, delivering concentrated beams of accelerated particles that no known shielding could fully deflect. The Vespian formation, caught between the Allied fleet's energy weapons and the humans' kinetic assault, began to fracture. Their dreadnoughts, designed to withstand frontal assaults, found themselves vulnerable from multiple vectors as human warships continued to blink between positions, never remaining still long enough to become targets. On the bridge of the Humanity's Resolve, Admiral Ochoa watched the battle unfold with clinical detachment. Phase 1 complete, she announced. Begin Phase 2. From the hangar bays of every human capital ship, swarms of fighters emerged, hundreds of them, each piloted by a human trained in the art of space combat. They moved in formations that seemed chaotic, but followed complex adaptive patterns, exploiting gaps in Vespian defenses that appeared for mere seconds. The Allied forces, following the agreed strategy, focused their fire on the Vespian command ships, using targeting data relayed from human vessels to penetrate specific vulnerabilities. The Vespian Concordat, which had never known defeat, found itself outmaneuvered and outfought on every front. Their biological hive mind communication, previously an advantage, became a liability as human electronic warfare systems introduced false signals and conflicting commands. In the command center of the Vespian flagship, the Queen Commander faced a situation no predecessor had ever encountered: imminent defeat. The humans had not only matched Vespian technology, but had introduced entirely new principles of warfare, principles the Concordat had no answer for. "Their lead dreadnought is broadcasting on all frequencies," reported a human communications officer. "Put it through," Oksho ordered. The image of the Queen Commander appeared, a massive insectoid being with compound eyes and glistening mandibles. When she spoke, her voice was translated into a harsh, clicking version of Galactic Common. "Human Commander," she began, her mandibles twitching with barely suppressed rage. "You have interfered in matters beyond your understanding. The Concordat has ruled this sector for 1,000 cycles. We will not be denied by primitives who have only just emerged from their nest." Admiral Okoa's expression remained impassive. "Queen Commander, your forces are surrounded, your command structure compromised, and your technological advantage negated. I offer you one opportunity to withdraw from Allied space and open diplomatic channels." "Diplomacy." The Queen Commander's compound eyes flashed. "The Concordat does not negotiate with prey species." "Then you've misunderstood the situation," Oksho replied calmly. "Look around you, Queen Commander. You are no longer the predator here." As if to emphasize her point, 3 more Vespian dreadnoughts erupted in flames as coordinated strikes from human and Allied vessels overwhelmed their defenses. The Queen Commander's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of distress. Chen noted, "This is not the end, human. The Concordat spans 100 worlds. We will return with forces that will darken your skies." "No," Oksho said with quiet certainty. "You won't." She nodded to her weapons officer. The Humanities Resolve's main RASER cannon powered up, targeting the Vespian flagship with pinpoint precision. The beam struck not to destroy but to disable, severing the biological components that linked the Queen Commander to her fleet. Across the battlefield, Vespian vessels suddenly lost coordination, their movements becoming erratic as the hive mind command structure collapsed. "All Allied and human vessels," Oksho broadcast, "target remaining Vespian engines and weapon systems. Disable, don't destroy. We want prisoners, not martyrs." The battle's outcome was no longer in question. Within hours, the mighty Vespian Armada, the force that had terrorized the sector for decades, was reduced to a collection of drifting, powerless hulks. The Queen Commander herself was taken into custody, the first time in recorded history that a Vespian of her rank had been captured alive. 1 month later, Captain Chen stood beside Admiral Catal on the observation deck of the newly established Joint Command Station orbiting Proxima Centauri IV. Below them, the planet was coming back to life as refugees returned to rebuild. "The Vespian Concordat has sued for peace," Catal informed her, his voice still carrying a note of disbelief. "After your fleet's systematic dismantling of their remaining military installations, their Hive Council voted unanimously to accept the terms offered by the Allied Human Accord." Chen nodded, gazing out at the stars. Humanity learned the hard way that victory through annihilation is no victory at all. The Vespians needed to be defeated, not exterminated. Catal's throat sac pulsed with emotion. "In 8 years of war, we never imagined such an outcome. My people prepared for extinction, not peace." He turned to face her directly. "Why did humanity really intervene, Captain?" "The truth." Chen was silent for a long moment. "We watched countless civilizations rise and fall while we hid behind our radiation barriers. We told ourselves we were learning, gathering intelligence, developing technology. But the truth? She sighed. We were afraid, not of defeat, but of becoming like those we observed, conquerors or victims. And now we've chosen a different path. Not isolation, not conquest, partnership. She gestured to the planet below. This is just the beginning, Admiral. Humanity is ready to join the galactic community, not as saviors or overlords, but as equals with a unique perspective. Tal's multifaceted eyes studied her. Your ships could have conquered us as easily as they defeated the Vespians. Perhaps, Chen acknowledged, but that's not who we choose to be. As they spoke, a new ship appeared in orbit, the first of its kind, bearing both allied and human design elements. It represented not just a technological merger, but a philosophical one. The best aspects of both civilizations combined into something new. The future will be interesting, Catal observed. Chen smiled, watching as the hybrid vessel moved gracefully into position. That, Admiral, is something we can both count on. The galaxy would never be the same. The arrival of a single human warship had changed everything, not through destruction, but through the possibility it represented. A new era had begun, shaped not by conquest, but by choice, by the decision of humanity to finally step out of the shadows and into the light of a larger universe. And somewhere in the vastness of space, other civilizations, some ancient and powerful, others young and developing, began to take notice of this new arrangement. The balance of power had shifted, and the ripples of that change would eventually reach even the farthest stars.